This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or from the comfort and convenience of your own home. This is the single finest natural resources investment conference in the world in one particular measure because of our exhibitors. If you choose to attend live, or if you intend to attend via live stream, understand that we're going to give you 50 hours of programming in 4 days, and you aren't going to be able to absorb it all. To that end, you'll have access to the tapes for a full year, and you will need them. In addition, we are interviewing every principal speaker and every exhibitor at the conference before the conference so that you can use the 50 hours at the conference to your best advantage. The idea is to determine what it is you're particularly interested in and reach out to the exhibitor or reach out to the speaker before the conference, or at least allocate your time at the conference efficiently. Note, too, that no exhibitor at my conference uh, becomes an exhibitor simply by writing me a check. Our exhibitors are content too. In every case, as a public company, I or accounts owned and managed by myself own the shares of that company. In terms of every single service vendor that's at the conference, these are companies that I experienced with my customers. No service failures for the 35 years that I was involved running a retail stock brokerage business, which is to say that all of the exhibitors have been vetted. In the case of the next exhibitor, in addition to the fact that there have been no customer complaints, I have been a customer of this exhibitor and, in fact, a shareholder of one of his companies going back through time. It's my particular pleasure today to introduce you to somebody who has been a sponsor of our conference literally for decades and a friend and a supplier of services to me for decades. Van, welcome to the Natural Resource Investor Symposium interview series, and thank you for your decades of service to the rare coin and bullion community.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on also. I appreciate it very much.
Van, you and I have known each other for probably 40 years, and you've been in the business like myself for 5 decades. We were joking before the interview that we've worked decades to become overnight successes, which I think is fairly funny. Give us a background on Van Simmons, a background on how you became the expert today that you are today, how you have serviced investors in the bullion and rare coins and greater collectibles markets. Let us know who Van Simmons is.
Pretty simple answer. Just, a surfer from California who grew up collecting coins his whole life. I collect a wide variety of things, but the collectibles market has always been different items that I like a lot. So I was buying and selling gold and rare coins back in the 60s when gold was illegal. And my poor mother always thought the FBI was going to raid our house, but she didn't understand you could buy US gold coins and 50 pesos and things like that were still legal. I wasn't doing bullion bars, but so I've been in the bullion business my entire life since I grew up in the 60s in high school, and a rare coin collector my entire life. The two sort of go together because the same people who buy rare coins all own gold bullion or silver or platinum or something like that. And I've just specialized in a lot of different collectibles, but rare coins are the main thing, mostly because of the historical aspect of them, because they're made by the US government, because they're protected by the US government as far as counterfeits, wide variety of reasons, great pieces of our history. So, people don't realize every time a coin design changed, it was usually for some specific reason that our government was changing things, either lowering the amount of silver content in a coin or raising the amount of silver content in a coin or things like that. So great coins for me represent different times in history. What was going on from a coin that was struck in 1862? Oh, we had this thing called the Civil War. But not a lot of people were putting away coins for different eras in our society. So that's sort of what I do.
One of the things that's impressed me about your background, Van, is I remember back to the decade of the 70s when, let's be charitable, and say that the coin dealers didn't have the best reputation for things like grading, efficacy, and honesty. You and your partner recognized that problem, and you made a whole bunch of money for yourself and for the collectors community solving it. Can you tell us something about the origin of your grading business?
Well, It was a pretty free market back then because it was an opinion as to here's a coin, what's the value of it, what's the grade of it, what's the condition. And in the late 70s, the market really started to separate based on just a rare date, but also grades and the condition of a product. When David and I got together in the late 70s, we've been partners for over 45 years, business partners for over 45 years. We always wanted to sell like the highest quality that we could sell. I never understood why a coin that's been beat up and drugged behind a bicycle is $1,000, but one in perfect condition would only be like 1,500 or 2,000. One should be 1,000, one should be 10,000. So in the early 80s, we were the first dealers to give a guarantee buyback. In other words, we guarantee to buy a coin back at the same grade we sold it as. Then in the mid 80s, it was more, we made a bid-ask market along with that. In other words, here's our buy price, here's our sell price, and we would publish both. Here's our bid-ask market, our buy-sell spread on coins. And that would range anywhere from a very small amount of a couple of percent, like we would buy, let's say, a $20 gold piece at $100 or $200 and sell for 2.25 or something. And then we ended up with PCGS. We're the first ones to seal coins. In fact, I'll show you one. I just bought one back from a client from the early 80s who you knew. And we would ship coins out in these little holders that would be sealed, sonically sealed, with the grade and the guarantee and all that stuff. These, by the way, now trade for a huge premium to collectors, not the coin, but the old holders. Some of the old holders are worth over $5,000 or $15,000 just for the holders. But so then we created, David called me one day and I was complaining about, bitching, I guess is the right word, getting coins from dealers because we needed high grade MS65 silver dollars. And all the dealers were sending us silver dollars and they were all overgraded. And so I'd return at least 90 to 95% of them to the dealers. And I was complaining, saying, it's ridiculous. These guys just send us overgraded coins. Too bad we don't have a way where certain guys, JD or Gordy or these guys would all say, oh no, I can send them coins because I know what they look like and and I would keep about 90% of their coins. So the next day, my business partner came and says, why don't we start a grading service? And I said, that's great. Let's start a grading service. And David and I ended up having control of the company and controlling shares. And we ended up hiring or bringing in 3 or 4 friends who were experts in the market. And we started the grading service, PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service. It became nobody could really argue with us about the grade because you had the top experts say, no, this is the grade, this is the standard. And that exploded. That was February of 86. And by end of March of 86, we were in the black in the company, and there was a 6-month backlog to get coins graded by us because nobody trusted the dealers. They wanted somebody, just like the Gemological Institute of America did for diamonds, or abstracting or things like that did for property. In other words, we guaranteed the grade, and the company stood behind the grade. And when we sold the company a couple of years ago, I think I had about 1,800 authorized dealers around the world who sold my product. It was, PCGS graded coins. And there's been 20 or 30 other companies that have opened since we started, and most of them have disappeared. A couple have stayed. But then we got into baseball cards and started grading and certifying baseball cards, which is a huge, huge market, much bigger than coins at this point, which doesn't make any sense to an idiot like me, but that's okay. I understand gold, I understand silver. Cardboard's a little different, but that market, I'll give you a good example. I had a guy in my office one time walking through, and I looked at him, I said, who are you? He goes, oh, I'm from eBay. A lot of your product is on our website, so we're here every 6 months talking to, maybe it was every quarter, talking to your managers and stuff. I said, okay. Then about 2 years later, I see him again. We were in a board meeting. By that time, we were a public company. And we were in a board meeting, and I said, can you come in and talk to my board members? So one of the guys says, how much of our stuff sells on eBay? Why are you here? He goes, well, a lot of your stuff sells on eBay. The guy says, well, how much sells? How many baseball cards sell? And pretty soon the guy pulls out this printout. And he goes, well, this is from this morning. He goes, you got to realize 95% of the baseball cards listed on eBay don't sell because they're not graded and authenticated by PSA, your company, Professional Sports Authenticators. And he goes, okay. He goes, well, how much of that sells? And he looks down and he goes, well, 1,230, or maybe it was 1,270. And I'm sitting there, I go, 1,270 what? $1,270 a year, 1,270 cards a year? He goes, no, 1,270 sports cards graded by your company sell on eBay every hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. He goes, that's how much you dominated the market. And all we really realized is buyers, and I'm a collector, so I'm a buyer. I always want a level playing field or somebody who guarantees what I'm actually buying is real and the grade. So that's how PCGS started.
Van, I've got to believe at PCGS that you guys saw damn near every rare coin in the country. And
Well, we
I got to believe that more often than not, particularly because on the brokerage side, you were such a dominant rare coin broker. I got to believe that you know where most of the coins are. Is that an accurate statement? Like if I was looking for, I remember you sold me a Lewis and Clark coin once. I never heard of a Lewis and Clark coin, as you know, because you sold it to me. I was interested in American history, which is why I bought it. Uh, and I'm not necessarily asking you to toot your own horn, but it's occurred to me over 30 years that you institutionally have the deepest knowledge of the variety and condition of U.S. rare coins, but you also unusually know the market more deeply, who the buyers are, who the sellers are, where the population is, what the population is. Is that an accurate assumption on my part?
Well, I wish I were that smart, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty close. I'm not trying to brag, but I mean, it's pretty close. We've handled virtually every rare coin and rarity that, like right now, I have a coin that the U.S. Mint only made 10 of, and it was part of King Farouk's collection when he was a big coin collector. And so we have a lot of things go in and out of here. One of my problems is when I place really rare coins, I like to place them with clients. And I was just talking to you before this, where I just sold a couple of silver dollars to a dealer for well into seven figures. And I hated selling them to the dealer because they're gone and I don't know who his client is. And when I like buying the stuff back. I mean, I bought the coins back from a client a couple of months ago. So I pretty much know where, between my partner and I, yeah, I would say we know the rarity of most things and the difficulty of finding most things and why things are difficult and why things are rare from certain years. So it's, yeah, again, it's a lot of hard work, I guess, we've been through.
A lot of people, when they think about PCGS, don't, I mean, they know you for your encyclopedic knowledge of the rare coin market, but they don't know that you've been in the bullion business for decades too. Do you want to talk about your bullion services?
Yeah, if people want to buy bullion from us, I mean, we're a major bullion dealer in the US. I mean, I don't market it that much because there's so many other dealers who market, that's all they market. I have, I went from 365 employees over at PCGS, which I guess now has over 4,000 employees. They've expanded it quite a bit in different collectibles, to where I've got a small office of 5 people. I'm a very small boutique company, do a tremendous amount of bullion business every single day. I mean, there's not a day goes by that for the last 25, 35 years that we haven't done some bullion business. And as you know, a lot of the major newsletter writers that you and I know are clients of mine and have been. I just heard from one who just moved back to England that you're familiar with, wanting to buy platinum. And so my business is, a large part of it is bullion. And I don't market that much. I guess I don't market it at all because I don't feel like I need to. But I buy and sell as much bullion as just about it, maybe not just about anybody, but a tremendous amount of bullion that goes through our office.
In terms of individual portfolios, where would you say that bullion fits in the portfolio, and where would you say that rare coins fit in the portfolio? Tell me something about, we're going to have thousands of attendees online and hundreds of attendees at the conference. I realize there's no one size fits all, and I appreciate the fact that you've tried to tailor your services over years to individuals, including myself. But tell me, because I sort of see bullion and rare coins as different asset classes, tell me, for the average wealthy client, where both of those fit in the portfolio, in your view.
100%. No, I'm kidding. In a portfolio, I mean, everybody should buy bullion. Like I said, I've been buying it since I was a kid, and I still buy it. I mean, people said to me yesterday, I was having lunch with one of our close friends, yours and mine, and he was saying, what do you think about gold at $3,150? What happens if it pulls back to 2,500? I said, I'd be thrilled because I buy it all the time, pretty consistently, and I'd much rather be buying it at 2,500 than 3,100. They don't understand a bear market helps somebody like me. And it's like, if coins go down, rare coins go down in value, it's great for me because I'm able to buy more. So I don't know if there's a specific percentage, because not everybody likes rare coins, and I don't try and push, people call me on bullion, I don't try and push them towards rare coins at all. I just think that Some people really like history. They really like some of the greatest parts of our American history and our American economy and things that represent the Industrial Revolution and everything that was going on in our country for the last 250 years or whatever. So rare coins fit a part of that. Bullion to me is a completely different animal because it's real money. I mean, it's real money worldwide, and I don't know what Trump is going to do. People said to me, I had a guy earlier today, he says, so what do you think is going to happen? I said, well, tell me what Trump's going to do in 15 minutes, and maybe I can give you the answer because everything's changing so quickly. But I don't understand people who don't understand bullion, but I never have, and I've been buying it since it was less than $100 an ounce. So for me, it's worked out really well.
Van, one of the things that I've done in my career that's been very useful to me, but very useful too to the community, has been that I will rank people's natural resource stocks portfolios for free. I notice that you, at many, many, many conferences over decades, have reviewed people's rare coin portfolios with no obligation to. Uh, Tell me something about the fact that, at least in the rare coin market, you're happy to service either the buyer or the seller. You've been a major buyer and reseller of private collections for years. Could you talk about that as well?
Sure. I mean, that's always been a service we've done. I actually appreciate you asking me because a lot of people don't realize they find coins and they go, what's this worth? And 95% of the time it's not worth a lot. But I have at the shows, I have people bring stuff up. It's interesting because PCGS or Collectors Universe owns several coin shows, and at the coin shows we would set up. I mean, I'd have David Hall rare coins, we'd have PCGS, we'd have different booths, but one of them at PCGS we'd have a thing that was called the Ask the Expert, and people would walk in. I mean, people would walk in. There was a line all the way out the door of people waiting, and it was usually David because he loved to talk to people. And he could look at their coin and say, no, this is trash, or this is this, or this was made for this reason, that reason. And I was down there one day and some gal, probably in her 50s, maybe 60s, comes up and she goes, can you tell me about this? And she hands David this coin. He hands it to me and I look at it. I said, where'd you get this? She goes, well, my father bought it for me back in the 60s. And he was a physician. And he told me, save this and don't sell it until you get older if you really need money. And it wasn't graded by us or anything, but it was a really high grade, real nice $4 gold piece. I don't know if you know, $4 gold pieces were made 1879 and 1880, very limited quantity. Some were only made 20 or 25 coins a year. This happened to be an 1879 flowing hair, and I think they made a little over 500 coins, 428 or something. Anyway, I looked at the girl, and David looks at her and goes, lucky girl. He goes, let's get this graded. And she goes, well, is it worth getting graded? And he goes, oh yeah, we'll do it for free for this coin. So we graded it, ended up grading like proof 67. And she was floored. She had no idea what that meant. She goes, what would you pay? I said, put it in auction. You're going to get a lot of money. I think it brought $500,000 in the auction. And she just, and the comment, lucky girl, turned out pretty good for her. She, of course, was floored as to what it was worth and everything. So yeah, I've seen just about everything. And at the shows, a lot of people do bring me coins. And it's pretty easy for me to go through this stuff pretty quickly because I've seen so much stuff.
So, Van, you and I have known each other for probably 4 decades, and a few people that we both know have known each of us separately for 5 decades. If
We're getting old, Rick, but go ahead.
if the people listening to this interview want to tap your brain or do business with you, either on the bullion side or on the rare coin side, who in your organization do they contact, and how specifically do they contact?
Well, my organization is about 5 people at this point. I have a full-time CPA because we do a lot of business, and then I have my son is who my son has worked for me for probably 12 years. Another guy, Brent's worked for me for probably 15 years, and myself. And that's about it. And so they can talk to any of us. If it's bullion related, they can talk to any of us. If it's rare coin related, they want to buy a rare coin, or they want to talk about a rare coin, or they have something they have a question about, they can easily talk to me. I'm here 5 days a week. I'm usually in from 6 in the morning Pacific Standard Time till 2 or 3 or 4 Pacific Standard Time, usually 5 days a week. Although the last year I've been taking Friday afternoons off, which is 73, 74 years old. I've decided I can probably do that now. But no, it's been.
How do they reach you, Van? What specific mechanism? What number? What email address? How do people talk to Van Simmons?
They can call me at 1-800-759-7575. It's 1-800-759-7575. 7575, or they can email me at van@davidhall.com or info@davidhall.com. It is interesting because we were one of the first people on the internet when Yahoo opened. We were one of their 33 websites that you could go to. So we were really early in the internet thing. So our website was davidhall.com. One day, one of the clients called and said, "Have you ever looked up your URL, David Hall Rare Coins?" I said, "No, I haven't." We didn't own it. And there was a couple of coin dealers on there who bought the name, and you'd go to their website. If you looked up David Hall Rare Coins, of course, we had to fight him in court, and they had to give it back to us because we'd had the name for 50 years. But so you can go to davidhall.com and or call me or email me, info@davidhall.com or van@davidhall. Pretty easy office. I don't have a fancy office in the slightest bit. I've had fancy offices, but I don't anymore.
Van, thank you for 4 decades of business and 4 decades of friendship. Thank you in particular for your ongoing sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton, July
Appreciate
7th
it.
through
Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Rick.